Hey guys and girls, welcome to our fourth Mixing Elevator live show. Today I'm going to show you a rock song, a rock ballad, and it was actually submitted as a stereo track, and the stereo mix turned out problematic. And I asked the band is a Casual Friday band, for stems. And I thought this is a great opportunity to give you a little bit more insight in what things you need to take care of in the mixing process and how easy mastering can be when the mixing process worked out well and the mix is well prepared for mastering. So let's get started. So here you can see on C2, Q2, which is here. I sneak in here so that you can see me. We listen to this track. This is the stereo mix. To save some time, I go in here right away, so that we can get an idea about the whole thing. So let's play it.
Because there is a lot of love in us, and after all, I think that we can trust again. Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see.
Okay, this is already enough to get an idea. So what's the problem here of the mix? It's a panning problem, and it's a low mid-range problem, and it's a phantom center space problem. So we have too much going on the lower mid-range. Everything is masked, basically. There's no space for the singer in the phantom center, so take care that the phantom center is reserved for the singer, for the lead vocals. You want to have kick, bass, snare there, probably hi-hat if you prefer to have the hi-hat in the center for hip-hop or whatever. And then the singer. And so here it's a typical case. Lots of stuff is going on here behind the singer, in front of the singer. And it's the guitars, or at least one guitar.
Das kann ich nicht.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's one guitar behind the singer, it's the piano behind the singer, there's the orchestra, and all that kind of stuff. It's too much, so that the singer is all the time fighting, and we have this muddiness. It's not sounding open. It's sounding a little bit like this, and so as a mastering engineer, I'm always seeking for information in the song to give me guidance to make the right decisions. And so what I can hear is that the band wants to make it a big thing. So it's like a big live thing, big stage, like a little bit probably. Don't kill me for that. Bon Jovi in the 90s, 80s on a big stage kind of thing. So let's look into the stems. So I've certainly prepared something. So just to give you an idea, to mess around with this number of stems and doing a stem mastering, I limit myself to get it done in approximately 1 hour, for the sake of getting the best out of it, I've prepared that in 1 hour, and now I've spent an extra half hour to make a little bit fine tuning. So I have deactivated all the plugins and whatever I did. So we just go to mix and we can start listening to the different tracks. Let's listen into the drums kick. And this is also valid information. It's lots of reverb, it's big reverb, it's long reverb. The reverb time, for my opinion, is way too long and makes everything too blurry, and the drums seems to feel very far away, like 200 meters away. And this is not the way you would want to do that when you want to have the drums being present and pushing the song a little bit, and also having this big stadium kind of feeling. You would do it different. So you would first mix the drums and add a certain amount of reverb, but the reverb is simply too long. You wouldn't go. You basically would make it pretty simple. You would ask yourself, how many milliseconds would a minute have? So a minute has 60 seconds, 1 second has 1,000 milliseconds. So a minute has 60,000 milliseconds, and then you can simply take a calculator and take 60,000 milliseconds. I don't have the exact tempo in my mind here. Let's say it's something at around 80. At around 80, let's divide it by 80 beats per second. Then you have a rough estimate that you have 750 milliseconds per quarter. You want to make that precisely. You want to know the tempo of the track. I don't have it in my mind right now. But you can basically multiply that by 2 so that you have 2 quarter notes, and this is a good starting point for reverb tail time. So pick a reverb at 2 quarter notes in milliseconds. So this would be 1,500 milliseconds in that range. And I unfortunately don't have the means to get rid of the reverb. So what I do is I try to make it quick, otherwise we end up in having a 2 hours video here. So I first push the transient a little bit to make it a little bit more, to pull out the beat a little bit. That's here. That's just doing a little bit. Not that important. This is a way more important move here. The fun part is that this is a quite nice, intelligent gate for drums. And usually I would pick the kick, but as there are also toms, the plugin things, there are toms, you're wrong. So I didn't pick anything. I would just set the threshold and define how much I want to have, and now it sounds completely different. But listen to the length of the reverb now, which is shortened. And I tried to define the length here by using this. It even doesn't show it in milliseconds, so I need to do it by ear. So that the reverb grooves with the drums. So I can do that by finding a spot where the reverb tail goes away at a point where the next beat comes. Something is super wrong? Yeah, it's because I have all the drums. So let me play it just with a kick. You can hear that the reverb is gone by the next stroke, so that helps to reduce this. You don't want to use 3 seconds of reverb time. It really builds up and blurs everything and takes away the pushiness of the drums. So this does make sense. So let's go on. I use a little bit of this guy. It's always neat to create some tubey overtones, and the ability of the LA2A is to push the thing a little bit forward. I don't want to have the drums super far away. I just want to have it behind the singer, basically, so on the back of the stage. So let's add that. Yeah, it's also getting louder, and it's okay. I'm gonna fine tune that at the very end. So what else did I do? I wanted to give it a little bit more, body. I do that with a Pultec thing here. I don't need the other stuff. Just adding a little bit boost here and counteracting with attenuation. This reduces a little bit the width of the boost and creates a little frequency reduction in the mid-range. Let's add it. So you can see it has a good ability to make the kick a little bit more solid. In the bass area, we need bass, we need a little bit of warmth. So why do I use, I use Double Dynamics here. So this is basically a compressor. I just use it, it's a very universal dynamics tool. I can basically do whatever I want in terms of straightforward compression. And I just need straightforward compression, no special flavor here. So you could hear that the dynamic between the strokes is quite great. So the harder the drummer is pushing, the more beater portion we have, the more highs. And it's a little bit too dynamic to place it right. So for that reason, I use a compressor and a limiter and a chain, and I make sure that the limiter just pops in at the loudest strokes to limit it a little bit and reduce the dynamic, because the dynamic here is also reflected by the change of flavor. In other words, the additional highs which would come in with more beater. So it controls it a little bit. And then I added one EQ here, and it's a static. This is the static setting. It's set at minus 2.5 dB, and then I have an additional offset dynamic setting, which has an absolute value of minus 4.8, which is basically, just adding 2.3 additional dB of dynamic reduction of the beater portion. So the beater cuts through too much from it doesn't fit into the whole picture, and it was too much. I had to reduce it. So there's enough beater portion left. Usually when you set this, you look for the right frequency and you make the adjustments in conjunction with the whole mix at the very end, so that you can find the right spot. It's difficult to forecast how much beater you need. It depends a little bit on how much is happening in the frequency area. And I figured out that it cuts through too much here. And then I am done with the kick and I go to the snare, and the snare sounds like this. Yeah, way too crazy in terms of reverb. Let me go here. I do the same thing. Let me activate the gate. You can, if you count the beats, you can hear that I have used the double amount of decay, if you will, as opposed to the kick, because the snare is supposed to be big and the kick is not supposed to blur everything to death. So made sense for me, and I have roughly used 2 quarter notes as a decay time adjusted by ear. You can, when you count, you can count 2 times, and with the third beat, it's gone basically. Makes total sense to me. And then I've got a transient designer, which is great, and I, was still a little bit long. I reduced the sustain quite a little bit and gave it a little bit more push here. Okay, that works nice. And then we have a very problematic stem here. And this is basically a whole mess. So if this would be a serious job for me, I would ask the client to give me this track dry, please, so that I can make something useful out of that. It's completely drowned in reverb, and with overheads and hi-hat we have no chance to gate it. It doesn't make sense, would sound like crap. We would create inconsistency, so I need to live with a reverb. And let's listen. The hi-hat is way too low. I mess around a little bit. Yeah, we can probably go a little bit down here. I just want to reduce the blurriness, so we take a little bit of bass away from the toms, which is a pity, but I just want to, reduce a little bit the bandwidth here. And I added tons of highs. I mean, this is crazy, 4.7 dB high shelf at 1.25K. But it's needed. I mean, what do we have to be represented in the very highs? It's the overhead, the hi-hat, and the strings from the orchestra, and a few sibilants and overtones from the singer. That's it. So it's just important to cover that range so that we have this open feeling of the mix. Yeah, and now all of a sudden we enter a little bit into the region of harshness. Would be much nicer to have the original um, tracks or stem without reverb. I tried to mitigate the harshness a little bit with a Soothe 2, and yeah, I dialed in a good quality ultra mode. This helps a bit to reduce the harshness here. But you can see we really need that amount of hi-hat to make it work. And this overall reverb basically blurs the whole thing a little bit. So let us listen together, and then I add the plugins I've used here on the drums group. This is a 5-band parallel compressor, and I used it to give a little bit more emphasis towards the highs, starting at 4K, going to infinite, a little bit more parallel compression here. This leaves everything pretty natural and lets the transients be alive. This is just a simple but gorgeous bus compressor, which gives the drums a little bit more which is needed. And then I go again and fight a little bit against the beta portion here and try to dynamically control the highs so they are good now, but when they get louder with the cymbals, they get a little bit nasty, like it's not so nice. So I add this guy, and then I've added a little bit of inflator to give it more push, so I increase the input, so to come to a good working region. Added a little bit of effect, so this curve means I have a little bit more overtones to beef the drums up, and then I have reduced the output to have a fair comparison. So we can probably first just compare what the inflator does. Just for a quick comparison, I toggle off all the tools I've used so far. So this is how the drums come from the stems. Yay! That's a little bit of change. I mean, they became louder. I need to counter control that. You can see that I've reduced the kick by 2 dB. I've reduced the drums group by 0.6 dB, and I make a few other adjustments that I increase the other tracks. I rebalance the stuff down the road. Basically, it's great to stay coherent with the level. So input equals output. I didn't manage that in that short time, sorry for that. So let's look into the bass. Ta-da. Here we go. Let's listen to the bass. It's quite nicely done, I must say. It's a very nice flavored played performed bass with a little bit of nice distortion, which makes it nicely comprehensible. And there's an underlaying synth bass which just beefs the bass up, just laying notes basically to fill the gaps. And it's nicely done. I just worked a little bit on that, so it appeared to me that it has a little bit of I wanted to have a little bit richness in the bass, and I tried to play around with different notes. I listened to the bass for a moment and yeah, try to align the different notes he's playing. I can have an easy time to do that with a keyboard here. So I can hear a note which is too loud or too low, and then go there and adjust it a little bit. Here this support here at yeah, a little less than 400 Hertz is good for the wooden appearance of the bass. So what comes here? My beloved LA2A, and I play it without and with. Yeah, you can see that it's extending a little bit further down. It's because there's nothing else. We want to use that. It's wasted potential if we don't use it. So, and it's a matter of overall balance. So if we have more warmth in the bass, we can have more highs in the highs. So that's it. There's one very odd and strange thing here about the bass. So listen and tell me, in terms of reverb, how much reverb is on the bass? If you ask me, 0. And how should that work? I mean, we have a drummer sitting 200 meters away in a giant hall, and the bass player is sitting in a dry room in an anechoic chamber playing his bass. And this doesn't translate for the brain. I at least need to give the bass a little bit, and I decided to give the bass a little bit of, where's the scent here? A little bit of ambience, which would come here from this guy, Ocean Way. And it sounds now like this. It's just as much as the brain needs to think, yeah, damn, it makes a little bit of sense. Would have been too much to drown it into a giant reverb like the drums. But we're gonna find a solution for that at the very end. So let me play the bass and the drums together. So now tell me what's wrong here. Here we go. Tell me, where are the guitars playing? So we just listen to the guitars. it's a big problem. It's I played with a vocal and the guitar is constantly fighting against the vocal.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get.
It's not really feasible to place the guitars like that. So there's one guitar in the center. In total, there are 3 guitars: one in the center, one a little bit left, one a little bit right. But they are very close to the singer and stealing acreage from the singer. And I did something which I would like to ask you to be careful with that, because it can create harm. You can go too far. I tried to find a way. Let me play the guitar without this delay. So the guitar lives in terms of phase approximately between 30 and 40 degree, which means it's not super stereo. And I need to make space desperately for the singer. So adding the delay means nothing is happening on the left side. So 0 feedback, dry, 0% wet, right? Right side, 0 feedback, 100% wet, 4 milliseconds delay. And if you do that, mess around with different values. So 10 milliseconds and below, everything below 10 milliseconds. And you most likely will find an area which creates the least harm in terms of phase. We don't want to end up in the complete red area here. But yeah, I tried to find a value which works. The interesting thing is, by doing that, we lose a little bit of warmth. This warmth from the lower mid range. For that reason, I added that warmth back in here, so that we get a nice kind of flavor back from the guitars, so that the guitars remain consistent. Let me bypass it. Close your eyes and figure out what's happening in the middle of the stage and in the Phantom Center. And now you have the space. So there are some spots coming up where the guitar gets a little bit nasty. It's not the part where the guitar player plays the slower things, but there are other spots, and I want to control this nasty area here. Don't know, probably here. Let me see. Yeah, I just don't want to come this frequency area to cut it through too much. So just a little bit control on that, and a little bit of soothing. Not my preferred tool, but very useful when it comes to rescue things. But you have a great chance to overdo things with a soothe. So it's always better to have the perfect recording and have no harshness going on. So that's the quick treatment of the guitars to create space for the vocalist. Let me play a little bit further and make it on and off. Yeah, what it actually can need now. Let me add a little bit of Santa Cruz. See if it makes sense. A little bit of mid-range edginess is missing. It's important for the guitars to cut through. Yeah, I want to be a little bit careful with that now because I would need to control it on the different spots, but I think the guitars can stand that, so be a little bit more guitarish, if you will. Here comes the piano. Close your eyes and tell me what's happening in the center of the stage. Presence of the piano, I would say. And you can see that the piano is fighting against the singer.
More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's
So the singer has not enough space, so we need to do something about that. And my strategy here was to take the multiband compressor and use it in the range which is important for the singer. So the most important area would be like from here to here, and I drive it through the sidechain input from the singer. And you can see that as the singer pops in, where's the singer starting here? In a moment. So listen to it and see what happens when the singer pops in.
once when we met, did we feel it yet?
Nothing. This is a pity. Let me see. Why is this? Because I've deactivated the send. Yay! So now it's supposed to be working.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems, we can hide each other easily.
Can you feel that the singer doesn't need to fight as much? Pretty nice thing. So, center 1. I have reduced, it's a matrix which splits into left, center, right. I've reduced the center signal quite a little bit also just in a range where the singer needs presence. So in total, let's simply go here and play it a moment, and I bypass this here.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems.
So it's way easier for the singer to cut through here. So then we've got an orchestra thing. I've done a little bit on that. Let's listen to the orchestra. I have also just made 1 dB of space here in the singer area, that's it. So you can see that I've muted this at the very beginning. I can show you that. It's so here we go. It's in the intro. I was thinking, damn, there's crosstalk or bad signals, stuff like that. And it's actually is synth, and it does make sense. So if you guys from Casual Friday don't want me doing that, it's yeah, ask me for not doing that. It's I just, as we don't have a feedback round here, I just take it away because it does make sense in the very beginning. And for that reason, before I figured out that this noises comes from the synth here, I was cutting away all the other tracks at the very beginning, and it was still there, so I figured out it was this here. Makes more sense here when you listen to the piano. The piano sounds great alone and it's well played. And then when the strings come in, it makes total sense. So now everything is fine. So this is just the reverb portion of the BGVs. This is just the BGVs dry, more or less. Let me see.
That we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems. We can hurt each other easily. After all, I still believe in us. And after all the fights we had, 'cause there is a lot of love in us. And after all, I think that we can trust.
Can you see that this lower mid-range creates a little bit of masking, like, and it helps to make, yeah. We need to be careful with this frequency area, the lower mid-range. So we're supposed to have enough to create warmth. We're not supposed to have too much to create this. Everybody wants to be there. So the hi-hat has portions there, the snare, the kick, the bass, the singer, the BGV, the orchestra, everybody. I mean, we just need to make decisions in this area, and this was a little bit too much for my opinion. So, yeah, I did mess around with this, the wet portion of the lead vocals. I messed around a little bit with the vocals, but not drastically. So let me look here. Without EQ.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems.
Basically, how a track feels, like this vocal track, can give you a whole lot of information about what you need to do. Without EQ, it feels a little bit caged, and it's like, yeah, there's a cover on it and has an overbalance of lower mid-range mids. And this mitigates that, and on top of that, this helps to further mitigate that. So I toggle both on and off, starting with off.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get.
Yeah, feels freed up, right? And So that's what we do. So let's get to the point here. So now we throw everything here through the tubas, and I start with a K stereo to add a little bit of stereo width to the whole thing, and you're gonna have a hard time to hear the difference. So I reduced the gain by I more or less used it to reduce the gain so that I have the right gain for the analog chain here. And so I can't, when I toggle on off, there's a gain jump of 4.2 dB, so you won't hear a difference. So now I enter into the realms of the analog world, and I just give you first I start with A-Bing it, starting without and then on, and I have reduced the return by 1.76 dB by ear to have an equivalent loudness, basically, so that you can hear what the master chain would do. Let's probably start and we compare between the rough mix and where we are right now. Let me play. So we hear the mix.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get.
Despite as a few dB lower, you can already hear that everything is falling into its place. It's pretty nice going into the right direction. Let me show you what the analog chain makes as a difference, and then I explain you a little bit what I've done. Starting without.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see.
It's not a big difference, but it's a big difference. It's like what mastering does. It creates coherency. So it feels more like, ooh, now it's mastered. So before it was a mix, now it's mastered. So when we reduce the outcome of the master so that we have an equivalent loudness level between mix and master, it's always not the super huge game changer, but you can hear that it feels more unified. It's more like radio-ish, radio-ish, if you will. It's a little bit bigger, the stage. Focus again. I start without and pop it in.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems, we can hurt each other easily.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more 3D-ish, has more depth. I reveal a secret in a second. And first I show what I've done here. Let me see. I've started with bus A, which is MSing. I've further added just a tiny bit of side. You always need to be pretty careful, and you always want to watch on such a thingy here to make sure that you don't go into the red zone. Anyway, on that bus I have inserted the massive passive. Let me look for the massive passive. Where is it? Massive passive, massive passive. I think it's this guy here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so massive passive. I have added a little bit low shelf just just a tiny bit at 100 hertz. I've added a little bit of edginess in the mid-range, 1.8K, just a tiny bit better. I've added a little bit of speech comprehensibility and presence for the singer at 6.8K, shells. And I've added a little bit of air here at 27K, and on this is the M portion, the mid, the side portion. I've just added a little bit air at 7 point. Oops, I'm in the way. At 7 point 27K. I mean, so let's make it. I pop in here in the left corner. Can I? Yes, I can. And I play it without, and with it may make a noise because it's analog here.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems, we can hide each other easily.
Yeah, you can see that I just do tiny steps in the actual mastering process. Then let's go further here, and I have added another compressor, and it's living. Where does it live? It lives. Yeah. It's the wrong remote. It lives here. So it's almost doing nothing. So going back, I don't want to frustrate you that I'm using analog gear. So for example, the Massive Passive by Universal Audio is quite great. The Massive Passive by Acoustica Audio is quite great. You can go for that. So this is a great piece of tube hardware. It's a pure mu called. It's a kind of very mu compression, and it gives a little bit of unification, depth, and sparkle. Not a super big deal, but nice. And as an equivalent, you can use, for example, the Fairchild 670 by the UAD. This would do the same thing. Let me go one further. Is it this guy? Yes. I'm using this compression. You can see how little it's compressing. Let me play it. I mean, have in mind, so this total thing is 5 dB, so I'm living here at 1 point something. Gain reduction. Interesting thing, 80 hertz sidechain filtering, 1.25 to 1 ratio. Very, very small ratio creates unity. Very nice. You can also do that in the box when you find great sounding compression. It's one recommendation would be Pulsar Modular, the P11. It's a gorgeous sounding plug-in compression. So has also even pure mu presets in there. So then I did a fancy other thing. So I went and added a concert hall, and I dragged it to 1.9 seconds. And let me go probably here. And I've dialed it in as a parallel signal. And this is important because the instruments and the mix have different rooms, and this gives just a little bit of unification, probably, yeah, you can hear that when I deactivate the master chain again. So that was basically my master chain. And I again start without and activate it. So listen to the reverb, listen to the unification. It's opening a little bit due to the moves on the EQ, on the massive passive, and that's it. So starting without.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now
Yeah, here we go. So then the final limiter stage would be required. So be careful. Now it's getting 8 dB louder. Why 8 dB? It's crazy. It's simply, I need to go down here to have the right level for my analog chain. And usually I would be probably at 6 point something, plus 6 point something, due to the fact that I have reduced the return level for the sake of fair A-B comparison. I have this crazy high amount of more level. So back up your listening volume right now, please, 8 dB louder. And then we can see where we live, basically, in terms of loudness now. So let's play.
once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems.
So, here we go. I think that works. So you can see I have not raped the limiter or the mix by crushing it with a high amount of gain reduction. So everything is decent, everything is working nice. Let me now toggle to our original rough mix here, and I most likely need to reduce the level quite something here. I have no idea how much, and let's compare the stuff.
Once when we met, did we feel it yet? More than just a feeling that we could get. Now that we see it's not as easy as it seems.
Can you see how the complete feeling of the song has been changed? And now it's getting big. It's working pretty nicely. I mean, even if I would toggle here at the beginning, let me do that in the intro. I toggle between A and B. So rough mix.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Tell me what you see. Tell me what is fake and what's reality. I had a dream made of you and me. A dream that told me it could be my fantasy.
Okay, let's go where it gets a little bit more rocky here. Rough mix. Yay! So, I think that's it for today. and I hope that I could give you some insights into both the world of stem mixing and mastering. Actually, this thing is quite a bit more than stem mastering, so it's almost stem mixing and mastering in one process here. But it's fun. It's a nice song. It's a nice recording. Just don't mess around with big reverb so much. And take care of leaving space for the gorgeous lead vocal. So very nice band, very nice composition. Yeah, and I hope everybody could gather some inspiration out of that. So I hope I see you again. I don't know yet when. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed everything. So don't forget to follow the YouTube channel or follow us on social media or visit our website whatsoever. And if you're interested in more, feel free to reach out to us. Bye bye.